Begin by rolling out your muslin. I've got 1.5 yards of 60-inch wide goods. Next, the dreaded step of ironing. This is the most important part to make sure that your pattern pieces are true and accurate, so you want to make sure to iron out any creases and wrinkles to make sure the muslin is as flat as possible. Before this step, you would also want to pre-wash and dry your fabric were you working in fashion fabric for this step, but since this is just our muslin or sobai, we don't need to pre-wash this. And now that we have our muslin all ironed up, I'll align my selvages together and start laying out my pattern pieces. This is 30-inch wide goods as opposed to narrow goods, so you may not be able to get this same layout depending on the muslin that you use. But I'm laying my pieces out. I've got my center front pieces along the fold, and there on the end I've got my waistband. That piece of paper is folded in half so that I can cut it on the fold. And then next I've got my self-aligning center back pieces and my waistband here at the center front folded edge. And then finally I have all of these different pocket pieces for our quarter top pockets and the welt pockets in our skirt that I'm pinning along the selvage edge here. Here you can see the layout that I have. And next I'm going to start cutting. I only needed about 1 yard of this fabric because I was on wide goods, but with narrow goods it might be a good idea to pull off at least 1.5 yards to make sure that all the pattern pieces fit. And as I'm cutting out my pieces, I'm going ahead and making little notch marks, snipping all the points where my notches will be as I'm cutting, just to help with efficiency to make sure that everything's marked as you go along. And now I'm cutting up all the little pocket pieces, making sure that all of the edges are clean. And finally I'm cutting out my waistband. Now that I've got all of my pieces cut out, I'm unpinning all of them, and as I'm unpinning the pieces I'm going to start marking all of my drill marks. So as I flip the pieces, I also want to flip the pattern piece as well so it's the mirrored side. So I want to mark the front with the face up pattern piece, and the back side of the muslin I want to put the pattern piece face down to mark the drill marks on all of my pieces. Then I've got all my pattern pieces laid out and ready to begin sewing.